Welcome, the anointed ones. When a lion finally roars, it doesn't apologize for all the times it purred just to survive. You might want to sit down for this one, because what you're about to realize will either validate your evolution or expose everything you let slide in the name of peace. See, here's the brutal fact. People weren't shocked by your growth. They were shocked that you finally enforced the terms and conditions that came with it. You see, they signed up for the old version of you, the overly available, spiritually generous, emotionally discounted version. But then, something happened. You healed. You snapped out of the spell. And baby, you didn't just set boundaries. You installed a full-blown spiritual firewall with divine facial recognition. And now, you've got folks walking around like, wait, who dis? Same soul, new access code. And no, you're not resetting it. What they called attitude is really just your aura in high definition. What they called doing too much is you finally doing what you should have done years ago, protecting your peace like it's a national treasure. They're gasping like you committed a crime, just because you stopped allowing them to rob you emotionally with a smile. If only they knew, this isn't even your final form, so buckle up. This isn't just about boundaries. This is about you becoming the version of yourself they swore you'd never have the courage to unlock. Let's talk about why your transformation has people shook, nervous, exposed, and strangely addicted. Because truthfully, you're not acting different. You finally started acting like you know who the hell you are. Number 1, you became the judge of access, and they can't handle rejection from the court they used to control. You used to be the one waiting outside the gates, hoping someone would finally let you in, into their life, their love, their respect. But somewhere along the line, something in you snapped. Not the kind of snap that breaks you, but the kind that builds you. You didn't just grow, you upgraded. And now you're not knocking on doors anymore, you are the damn gate. That's what's rattling people the most. You used to crave their approval like oxygen. You'd shrink yourself, dim your light, make yourself more digestible just to feel seen. And they were comfortable with that version of you, the one they could access on demand, the one who didn't know how powerful they were. But now, you've become the one who decides who gets access, who gets close, and who gets cut off. They can't handle this new position you've taken. Why? Because it exposes a truth they never wanted to admit. They were only powerful in your life when you had no boundaries. They only had control because you kept handing them the keys. But the moment you realized you were the prize, the foundation, the blessing they couldn't duplicate, you shifted the power dynamic permanently. You became the judge, and not just of others, but of yourself. You started discerning your energy, protecting your peace, and calling out the games before they even started. That self-awareness? That's dangerous to people who benefited from your confusion. They're not just shocked by your distance. They're offended that they no longer get a front row seat to your life just because they once had one. You took away their entitlement. You made them earn what they used to take for granted. And for people who were used to you handing out all access passes, they're now standing outside, staring at the velvet rope you installed, trying to figure out how the hell they got demoted. What they don't realize is this: they didn't get demoted. They stayed the same. You're the one who evolved. You're not bitter. You're just no longer blind. And now that you see clearly, you're not running to be accepted. You're standing still and watching who's brave enough to approach you with respect or not at all. Number 2, your no is so powerful now. It sounds like a spiritual exorcism. Your no used to be soft, hesitant, dipped in guilt. You'd say it with an apology, hoping not to offend, worried someone would leave or that you'd be seen as difficult. But that version of you is long gone. Now when you say no, it doesn't just close a door, it shakes the room. It doesn't sound like rejection. It sounds like a boundary backed by divine clarity. It's not just a word anymore, it's a whole energy shift. People feel it in their chest because they know they just got cut off from something real, something they used to feed on, manipulate, or lean on without giving back. And that's why your new no hits different. It's not mean. It's not bitter, it's clean. It comes from a place of inner peace, not emotional chaos. You're not reactive, you're resolved. And that quiet power makes people nervous. They're not used to you protecting your energy like this. They used to expect you to bend, to overextend, to say yes when it drained you, all for the sake of keeping the peace. But you finally saw the cost. You realized that peace without boundaries isn't peace, it's a performance, and you're not performing anymore. When you say no now, it doesn't just stop someone from crossing a line. It forces them to feel their own entitlement, their own guilt, their own dependence on you saying yes. That's why they get defensive, that's why they act shocked. Your new no is spiritual truth, dressed as a sentence. It exposes everything they never wanted to face about themselves. You're not loud about it, you don't explain it, you don't soften it to make it more palatable. It just is. And people who once thrived off your indecision now feel disoriented in your presence. Because they can't manipulate clarity. They can't twist a firm boundary. They can't dance around a refusal that doesn't leave cracks to crawl through. What used to be a weak spot in you is now a weapon, not to harm, but to protect. Not to punish, but to prevent the wrong energies from draining your light. That no you say today, it's not rejection. It's self-respect speaking fluently, and they finally understand they can't translate it anymore. Number 3. You didn't just heal, you upgraded your soul's firewall. You didn't just heal, you upgraded. Not in a pretty Instagram quote kind of way. You went through the dark, lonely, raw parts of yourself and rewired your entire internal system. You stopped reacting to old triggers the way you used to. You stopped allowing access to people who only showed up when they needed something. And you didn't just set boundaries, you installed filters. Now, your spirit has a whole firewall around it. People can't just walk back into your life and pick up where they left off. They get hit with your energetic security system. You sense their motives, feel their energy shift, and catch the subtle manipulation before they even speak. You became spiritually encrypted, and that confuses people who used to know how to push your buttons. They'll say you're different, that you're distant, cold even. But the truth is, your old openness came from survival mode, from needing to be liked, needing to belong, needing to feel safe. You've outgrown that. Now you're not trying to be understood by everybody. You're making sure you're not misunderstood by yourself. And that internal clarity protects you from external chaos. People try their old tactics, guilt trips, passive aggression, fake concern, and they get nothing, no reaction, no energy, just silence and a door they can't unlock anymore. And it frustrates them, because your system doesn't respond to manipulation anymore. It rejects it automatically. This isn't just personal growth, this is spiritual evolution. You're not operating from trauma anymore, you're operating from truth. You're not fueled by fear, you're guided by discernment. And because of that, not everyone can sit with you. Not everyone can access your world. They're finding out, often too late, that they were only ever allowed into your life because you hadn't upgraded your protection yet. Now that you have, it's not that you're guarded, it's that you're wise. You don't hate people, you just know what they carry. You know what you carry, and you're not going to risk your light just to prove you're kind. Your firewall isn't for show, it's survival, it's alignment, and only the real ones can get through it now. Number 4. You became a mirror that shows people their manipulative rot. You didn't lose people because you changed. You lost them because your growth revealed them. You became a mirror, clear, unfiltered, and unflinching. And let's be honest, most people aren't ready to see themselves like that. Especially not when they've built entire personalities around avoiding accountability. Your presence started making people uncomfortable, not because you were loud, dramatic, or demanding, but because you were real. You didn't sugarcoat, you didn't over-explain. You simply stood in your truth, and that truth lit up the parts of them they didn't want to deal with. Your peace made their chaos obvious. Your self-respect made their manipulation obvious. Your boundaries made their emotional laziness obvious. The moment you stopped rescuing them, enabling them, or overextending for them, they started pulling away. Not because you did anything wrong, but because you interrupted their pattern. You stopped playing the role they wrote for you. The fixer, the forgiver, the scapegoat, the backup plan. When you stepped out of that role, they were left alone with themselves, and that silence, that space, that was louder than any argument. People call you too sensitive, too much, too cold, But the truth is, your clarity scares them. Because when you say no, you're not just setting a boundary, you're revealing their dependency on your yes. You're exposing the emotional shortcuts they've taken all their lives. You didn't just change, you became reflective, and not everyone wants to be reflected. Most want to be reaffirmed, even if it means staying stuck in delusion. But you don't play that game anymore. You're not here to coddle egos or protect false identities. And let's be real, many of them knew what they were doing. They just didn't expect you to wake up. They were counting on your silence, your guilt, your fear. But now that you see it clearly, you can't unsee it. And they can't undo the exposure your energy causes when you walk into a room. You're not the villain. You're the mirror. And they're not running from you. They're running from what they see when they stand next to you. Number 5. You're triggering people because you finally refuse to bleed for their comfort. You didn't become difficult. You just stopped making your suffering the cushion for other people's dysfunction. For so long, you were the one holding everything together. You made excuses for people who never grew up. You dimmed your light so they wouldn't feel small. You bit your tongue so others wouldn't have to sit with the discomfort of their own behavior, and it drained you. But now, you're done bleeding so others can feel whole. You're done sacrificing your mental peace just so people can avoid facing their own mess. You've stopped being the emotional sponge who soaks up everybody's problems while yours go ignored. You realize that being selfless without boundaries isn't noble, it's self-abandonment. Now that you've reclaimed your space, people are rattled, not because you've become mean or arrogant, but because you're no longer available to be used. You don't flinch when someone tries to guilt-trip you. You don't scramble to fix things you didn't break. You don't lower your standards just to keep the fake peace alive. And that disruption, that refusal to fold, it triggers them. They're used to you playing small so they can feel big. They're used to your silence, your patience, your loyalty, even when it cost you your well-being. Now that you've pulled back, stepped up, and said enough, they feel exposed. Your distance shines a spotlight on the ways they've avoided growing up. Your boundaries make their excuses look weak. Your strength forces them to look at the gaps in themselves they've long ignored. You're not asking for too much, you're just no longer settling for too little. That's the difference. And people who only loved the version of you that tolerated everything won't know how to handle the version of you that requires respect. You're not in their circus anymore. You walked away from the clowns, packed up your emotional stage, and took your light with you. And now, all that's left is their own noise echoing in the space where your silence used to make room for their mess. They're not mad at your change. They're mad that they can no longer benefit from your self-neglect. Number 6. Your energy went from please like me to you better come correct. You used to carry that energy, the kind that quietly begged please like me. Not out of desperation, but because deep down you were still unlearning the idea that love had to be earned through over-giving, over-explaining, or overextending yourself. So you made yourself overly available. You tolerated flaky people. You justified bad behavior. You gave chance after chance, hoping someone would finally see your heart without stepping on it. But something in you flipped. Maybe it was betrayal. Maybe it was burnout. Maybe it was just the last time you cried over being treated like an option. Whatever it was, it activated the part of you that realized your worth was never supposed to be a negotiation. And now, your whole energy has changed. You're no longer out here hoping to be liked. You're not bending to be palatable. You're not softening your tone to seem less intense or shrinking your presence to avoid being labeled. That old version of you, the one with the open window, gone. What stands now is a fortress. Still full of love, yes, but protected, guarded, aware. People can feel it. The same ones who used to breadcrumb you with attention now feel blocked. The ones who used to guilt-trip you with silent treatments now get silence back. Ghosting doesn't get a reaction, it gets a permanent exit. They can't bait you with passive aggression, spiritual manipulation, or fake vulnerability anymore. You don't entertain potential, you measure consistency. You don't decode mixed signals, you delete them. You don't chase, plead, or beg, you observe, and if the energy doesn't match, you leave. That shift in you, it's not arrogance, it's alignment. You're no longer hoping someone will finally treat you right. You're making sure only the ones who already know how ever get a seat at your table. Your boundaries are no longer guidelines. They're prerequisites. You're not explaining your worth anymore. You're enforcing it. Either come correct or don't come at all. Number 7. You're not acting brand new. You're finally acting like you deserve to exist fully. You're not acting brand new. You're finally acting like someone who knows they deserve to take up space. You're no longer walking around as a watered-down version of yourself just to keep other people comfortable. And that shift, it has people talking. They'll say you're acting different, that success changed you, that healing made you distant. But the truth is, you finally dropped the mask. You stopped faking humility for people who confused your silence with weakness. You're not cold. You're clear. Clear about who you are, what you allow, and what you absolutely refuse to tolerate anymore. You used to carry everyone's emotions like they were your own. You used to be afraid of setting boundaries, scared it would make people leave. But now you've learned, if someone can't handle your wholeness, they were never meant to stay. They miss the version of you that was easy to manipulate, easy to guilt, easy to access. The one who said yes out of fear and tolerated chaos out of trauma. But that version of you died the moment you realized your peace was non-negotiable. You didn't evolve to show off. You evolved to survive. Your old self was exhausting, always adjusting, always explaining, always giving people the benefit of the doubt while bleeding yourself dry. Now, you don't chase closure. You don't beg to be understood. You know who you are, and that's enough. And let's be real. Some people don't hate the new you because you changed. They hate that you found the strength to become someone they can no longer manipulate, drain, or define. You stopped entertaining spiritual squatters, people who never brought value but always expected space. Your new frequency doesn't tolerate nonsense disguised as loyalty. You don't do emotional gymnastics just to prove you care. You're not available for confusion, half-effort, or chaos wrapped in charm. You're done playing small just to be digestible. You're not rude. You're real. Let them talk. Let them twist the story. You don't owe anyone softness at the expense of your soul. You finally act like you deserve to exist fully, and that is what's making them so uncomfortable. Number 8. They're not used to you choosing yourself. They're used to you choosing them over yourself. They were never prepared for the moment you would finally choose you. For so long, you made them the priority, always showing up, always adjusting, always making room, even when it hurt. Even when it drained you. You sacrificed your peace just to keep the connection alive. You said yes when you meant no. You stayed when you should have left. You let your truth sit in silence so others wouldn't feel uncomfortable in your honesty. But then it clicked. Every time you abandoned yourself to keep the peace, you weren't keeping peace. You were losing you. And the people who benefited from that version of you? They never expected the day would come when you'd stop choosing them first. That's what has them confused, not because you're heartless, but because your heart finally came home to you. They're not used to seeing you protect your energy. They're not used to you saying, "No, I can't do this," and meaning it. They're not used to watching you walk away without looking back, without explaining yourself, without crumbling afterward. That strength, that clarity, it's foreign to them, and it should be. Because you spent so long giving people comfort they hadn't earned. Now, you're giving yourself the same care you gave everyone else, and it's about time. You didn't burn the bridge in bitterness. You let it fall because it was one-sided, cracked, and unstable. You stopped being the one always doing the emotional labor. You stopped being the glue holding things together that were only meant to fall apart. And from where you're standing now, the healed side, the honest side, the free side, you can finally breathe. This isn't payback. This isn't revenge. This is self-respect. You're not trying to hurt anyone. You're just refusing to hurt yourself anymore for the sake of being understood or accepted. You've simply stopped setting yourself on fire to keep everyone else warm. You shocked them, not because you became cruel, but because you finally became clear. You chose you. And they're still trying to figure out how to exist in a world where they're no longer your priority. Number 9. Your detachment is a weapon of mass awakening. Your detachment isn't apathy, It's revelation. It's not coldness. It's not bitterness. It's the result of finally realizing that your presence was being taken for granted. You used to over-explain, over-care, over-give, hoping that if you just poured enough of yourself into the situation, people would finally see your worth. But they didn't. Not because it wasn't there, but because they never intended to see it. So now, you've gone silent. And that silence speaks volumes, not in a poetic, cliché way, but in a surgical way. It cuts straight through the performance. When you fall back, there's no drama, no warning, no announcement, just distance. Real distance. The kind that leaves people pacing in their own thoughts, wondering when the shift happened and why they can't access you like they used to. You stopped arguing because you realized anyone who needed your pain to understand your point was never listening in the first place. You stopped justifying yourself to people who twisted your truth for convenience. You stopped leaning in. And in that withdrawal, you triggered something more powerful than confrontation ever could: self-reflection. People are waking up, not because you preached, not because you fought, but because you left. You didn't slam the door. You simply vanished from the emotional battlefield. And when you did, you took the spiritual supply with you. That emotional fuel they siphoned from your empathy, gone. That access they abused while calling it closeness, blocked. Your detachment is the message. It's the verdict. It says, you had me, and you mishandled me. Now you get to sit in the silence and think about that. And whether they admit it or not, they feel it. They feel the absence of your energy in every low moment, every fake connection, every hollow conversation they try to replace you with. You're not being petty. You're being precise. Your silence isn't a pause. It's a full stop. It's spiritual consequence wrapped in self-control. And to every soul that misread your softness as weakness, your detachment is now a mirror showing them exactly what they lost. Number 10. You don't let people use love to sneak past your defenses anymore. You've seen what fake love looks like up close, how it shows up dressed in sweet words and warm hugs, but folds the moment it's asked to be honest, present, or accountable. You've been through the emotional tug-of-war where someone swears they love you, but somehow you're always the one doing all the emotional heavy lifting. That version of love used to convince you to lower your guard. But not anymore. Now, you're wide awake. You no longer mistake charm for character or passion for peace. You've learned that real love doesn't bulldoze boundaries. It respects them. It doesn't flinch when you ask for clarity. It doesn't punish you with silence when you hold it accountable. You've outgrown the kind of love that demands access but refuses to earn it. People used to slip past your defenses by saying all the right things. They'd say, "I love you," right after they disrespected you. "I care about you," right after they ignored your needs. But that no longer works on you. Because now, love without action is just noise. Affection without accountability is manipulation. And you've finally stopped confusing the two. You no longer lean in when people say they love you. You watch how they handle you when you say no. You observe how they respond when you express discomfort. You see what they do when they can't get their way. That's where their real self shows up. That's where truth lives. You're not impressed by grand gestures anymore. You're moved by integrity. You don't care how much someone says they love you if their behavior creates chaos in your life. You know now. Real love is not afraid of boundaries. It grows within them. It honors them. If someone's love collapses the moment you ask for respect, that wasn't love. It was control. And the beautiful part, you don't argue about it anymore. You just disconnect. You've leveled up. You no longer defend your boundaries. You let them speak for themselves. And if someone can't meet you there, they were never meant to be that close in the first place. Number 11. You don't fear being misunderstood anymore. You respect yourself too much to explain the obvious. There was a time when being misunderstood used to eat you up inside. You'd lose sleep trying to clarify things, writing long messages, having repeated conversations, just to get someone to see you clearly. You thought that if you could just explain it the right way, they'd finally get it. But the truth is, some people never wanted to understand you. They just wanted to stay comfortable in the version of you they could control, manipulate, or dismiss. Now, You don't chase clarity anymore. You don't break your back trying to be seen correctly by people who benefit from twisting your truth. You've realized that not everyone misjudged you by accident. Some did it deliberately, because the real you exposes their lies, their insecurities, and their fake narratives. Your truth doesn't fit their script, so they rewrite it and cast you as the villain. And you used to panic over that. You wanted to clear your name, defend your heart, prove your intentions. But now your new boundary is simple. Let them think what they want. Because the moment you respect your own peace more than their approval, you stop playing defense in a game that was always rigged. You've stopped educating willful ignorance. You've stopped explaining yourself to people who've already decided what role you play in their story. You're done giving detailed explanations to people who only listen to respond, not to understand. That's not clarity. It's emotional labor with no payoff. You know who you are now. And that quiet knowing, that's power. It's power because it can't be swayed by gossip, confusion, or manipulation. It doesn't panic when someone misreads your silence or misinterprets your choices. It just is. Let them run with their assumptions. Let them talk. Your life will keep revealing the truth, and the people who are meant for you will feel your authenticity without needing a presentation. You're not rude, you're not cold, you're just done explaining the obvious to people committed to misunderstanding you. And that boundary, that's not pride. That's protection. Number 12. You realized being too nice was your most dangerous form of self-betrayal. You used to wear nice like it was your identity. Always available, always forgiving, always understanding, even when people were clearly taking advantage of you. You thought being nice would protect you, that it would make people treat you better. Instead, it became your most dangerous form of self-betrayal. You weren't being kind, you were self-sacrificing. You ignored your needs to keep others comfortable. You gave time, energy, love, money, patience, all while silently hoping someone would see the value of your heart and finally give back what you deserved. But they didn't. And not because they couldn't, but because they never had to. Your niceness gave them permission to take without giving, to damage without consequence, to disappoint you repeatedly without ever being held accountable. But something clicked. You realized that kindness without boundaries isn't love, it's abandonment. You were abandoning yourself to maintain connections that were rooted in imbalance. And for what? To avoid conflict? To avoid looking mean? To be seen as good? That version of you was dying inside while everyone else stayed fed from your overflow. Now? You've retired from being the emotional life raft. You've let go of the need to save people from their own chaos. You no longer step in where you're not invited or hold space for people who refuse to grow. Your kindness now has requirements, accountability, respect, reciprocity. That doesn't make you heartless, it makes you wise. You finally understand that love doesn't mean tolerating disrespect, that forgiveness doesn't mean unlimited chances, that compassion doesn't mean being a doormat. Being nice without standards was how you betrayed yourself the most. Now you say no without guilt. You walk away without explanation. You give your energy where it's earned, not where it's expected. You're not less kind. You're just more discerning. That shift isn't bitterness, it's emotional maturity. You still love deeply, but now you love yourself too. You still give, but now you make sure you're not the only one pouring. And anyone who calls you selfish for protecting your peace was only ever interested in the version of you that didn't know how to. Number 13. You became a boundary. And boundary is the new holy word. You used to absorb everything, every emotion, every unspoken tension, every subtle jab people tried to pretend was a joke. You felt it all. You carried other people's trauma like it was your responsibility to fix it. You were the emotional sponge, soaking up pain that wasn't yours, bending yourself to meet everyone's needs while slowly bleeding out on the inside. You thought being the strong one meant being the one who never says no. But that was survival, not strength. Now, you've transformed into something else entirely. You're no longer a sponge, you're a filter. You don't let everything in. You don't accept every vibe, every request, every excuse. You've become a living, breathing boundary. And the people who used to flood your space with their dysfunction, they're either shocked, offended, or suddenly quiet. Not because you changed overnight, but because you stopped accepting what never belonged in you to begin with. You're not bitter. You're clean. You've detoxed from codependency. You've removed the need to be liked at your own expense. And because of that, most people don't pass the new version of you. Not because you're being unreasonable, but because they've never had to earn the access they were freely given before. You see things now. You recognize emotional manipulation before it gets cozy. You catch projection the moment it hits your spirit. And where you used to carry those things and internalize them, you now reject them on arrival. That's not rudeness. That's discernment. That's spiritual hygiene. And let's be honest, some folks aren't upset because they lost you. They're upset because they lost their dumping ground. You used to be the place where people unloaded everything, then walked away lighter while you carried the weight. But now, you're done being the emotional landfill. Your space is sacred now. Your energy is curated. Your peace is not a group project. You no longer let chaos knock on your door and pretend it's love. Boundary is your new language, and guess what? The ones who can't speak it never deserved fluency with you in the first place. Number 14. They're not scared of losing you. They're scared they already did. They're not afraid of losing you. They're afraid that deep down they already have, and there's no way back in. Your transformation didn't just catch them off guard. It confirmed what they were secretly hoping wasn't true, that you finally saw everything. The lies they told with a smile, the emotional games they played while pretending to care, the bare minimum they gave while expecting the absolute most. You didn't just wake up, you outgrew the entire performance. You're not the same person who used to sit by the phone waiting for a reply, or who kept giving second, third, and fourth chances out of loyalty to someone who never truly earned the first. You no longer live in that emotional purgatory, hoping people will change, show up, or apologize. You're not hoping anymore. You're moving, with clarity, with purpose, and with absolutely no intention of circling back. That's what's haunting them. Not that you changed, but that your change wasn't temporary, that it wasn't a phase, a moment of anger, or a dramatic reaction. It was evolution, and evolution never reverses. You're not busy right now. You're not taking time to think. You're gone. Not in a loud, bitter way, but in a way that's final and quietly powerful. They stalk your presence, trying to find signs of the old you, the one they could charm, guilt, or manipulate. But that version of you has been laid to rest, with no resurrection coming. You don't hold space for people who never valued it. You don't explain your absence. You let your growth be the boundary. And the scariest part for them, you're not mad, you're not even emotional. You're just unavailable. That calm detachment, that peaceful silence, they know what it means. It means you saw the truth, accepted it, and walked away with your self-worth intact. And no matter what they do now, they can't unring that bell. They didn't lose access to you because they made one mistake. They lost access because they never thought you'd realize you were the prize. But now that you have, they're not wondering if you're gone. They're trying to figure out how long ago they lost you without even noticing. The truth is, this version of you didn't just appear overnight. It was forged in fire. Every betrayal, every disappointment, every time you were overlooked, used, or silenced, built the foundation for the boundary-driven powerhouse you've now become. You didn't get here by accident. You earned this clarity. You fought for this peace. And now that you've tasted self-respect, there's no going back to the version of you who tolerated being emotionally starved just to keep others full. They'll say you've changed, and they're right. You've changed into someone who refuses to abandon themselves for the sake of connection. Someone who no longer lets love be a loophole for disrespect. Someone who no longer explains basic human decency to people who know better, but choose not to do better. You don't need validation. You don't need applause. You just need alignment, and you finally found it. You're no longer moved by emotional theatrics or guilt-tripped into shrinking. You don't flinch when people pull away because you've made peace with solitude. You know now it's better to walk alone in truth than be surrounded in illusion. Your detachment isn't cold, it's sacred. It's the space where you protect your soul from spiritual squatters and habitual takers. This is what self-worth sounds like. It's quiet. It's non-negotiable. It doesn't beg, bargain, or bend. It simply is. And you've become fluent in it. Let them talk. Let them mislabel you. Let them wrestle with the absence they created, because none of it touches you anymore. You've elevated beyond their reach, and not out of ego, but out of necessity. You're no longer available to be misunderstood by people committed to misunderstanding you. You're no longer sacrificing your spirit to save what was never sacred to begin with. You became the boundary. You became the mirror. You became the consequence. And most of all, you became the version of you they never thought you'd have the courage to be. And now, they're not just watching your growth. They're being forced to sit in the aftermath of what happens when someone finally chooses themselves and never looks back. If this message hit your spirit and spoke the truth you've been living in silence, don't leave without claiming your power publicly. Like this video if you've ever had to walk away to find yourself. Comment below with "I choose me" if you're done negotiating your worth. Share this with someone who's rising into their truth, someone who needs to know they're not crazy, they're just evolving. And if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. This isn't just content, it's soul fuel. Every video is designed to pull you deeper into your purpose and remind you exactly who you are. We don't do surface over here. We speak raw truth and we heal out loud. Welcome to your next level. Subscribe and stay rising. God bless you.